right, give me 1 second. All right. We're recording already?
Yeah, baby.
What are you doing, Brad? All right. This is the Triple Play Fantasy Basketball Show, proud member of Empire Media. I'm your host, Coach James Lewis. We made it to episode 40, people. We're making big moves here at Triple Play Fantasy. We are, again, joined by the OG cast, starting with fresh off going tit for tat with NFLPA Executive Director DeMaurice Smith, a man who doesn't back down in an argument, Brad freaking Kilgore. What's up, buddy?
I appreciate that plug, man. That was one of my favorite interviews we've ever had. I think he had a good time, so hopefully he'll come on again. So definitely check that out.
He did hit Brad with a no at a certain point in there, and
was dead wrong. Made a terrible argument.
Oh man! So make sure you guys check out that interview. It was exciting. And Kevin Coleman, you can find him at @DuBoys_22. Starting off with Super Fantasy Bros. I want you to kind of walk us through what that's all about.
Yeah, we're me and my good friend Jacob Dunn are bringing a Super Fantasy Bros podcast to the NFL feed for Triple Play, and it's just going to focus on dynasty, redraft, everything about fantasy football. And our first episode is coming this Tuesday, so be on the lookout for it.
Kevin, you look like Waluigi.
I need a haircut. Really bad.
All right, and
no comeback for that. Wow.
And you heard his voice after taking some time off, conveniently after getting ousted in the fantasy playoffs. Our ever so hard working E. Mindy, we missed you, buddy. How you doing?
It's good to be back. Just some personal things in life, and do enough pods during the week that I got to take a break from sports every once in a while. But it's good to be back and talk some basketball.
Don't worry, I'll pump you up next time. To a man that works 10 jobs in one day. Wearer of many hats.
Yeah, right, and it's still broke.
And it's still at his mom's right now.
Yeah, there we go.
I was telling Kev, these are the grind years. You're gonna look back at these days and you're gonna cherish those moments. The 2021 playoffs are heating up. Today's podcast, we spotlight the good and the bad of fans being back. Some injury concerns with Donovan Mitchell coming back. It was Chris Paul that's struggling with a sprained right shoulder. Donte DiVencenzo out for the playoffs. We recap and give opinions on all of our playoff matchups. And then our Who Ya Got, we make our Defensive Player of the Year and MVP award choices and finish with our question of the week, which is who had the greatest NBA playoff run of any team of all time. But first, a little news and notes. We are now in week 2 of the first round, and it's getting testy in some of these matchups. After missing 40 days of action, Donovan Mitchell is back, baby. He looked pretty good in game 2. He finished with 25 points in 26 minutes. Kev, I got to start with you since you are the leader in the Donovan Mitchell fan club.
Yeah, I mean, he did all right. Like, there's one he came back. Hey, I got to give him props for coming back. I mean, doing that after he was out, that was pretty impressive. So we'll see. I don't. Ja went off in that game, and they were able to hold off, and that kind of shows you something. I think the series is going to be over, but I still stand by it that Utah is fraud. They are frauds, and they lost the game. I don't necessarily see them making it past this next round.
Brad?
No, I think Donovan proved a lot when he came back. It's not like he came in and, shot 40 shots and had 20 points. Like he came in and was completely efficient. I thought he might have been used as a decoy, like considering that the team wanted to hold him out just the game prior. So I thought he was going to come in and kind of just take pressure off some of the guys that are, getting double teamed and whatnot. But he came in and he was effective. And I think they're going to hit the ground running from here. I don't think they're frauds. they're number one in net rating in the entire league. But to be honest, what I saw from the Lakers these past couple of games, they turned that switch on. I was worried about them, but they're here. And if the Lakers are going to be at full strength, which it looks like they are, there's not a team in the West that can beat them.
Doc?
We go from talking about the Jazz to the Lakers with no segue at all. I mean, you got to like what you see. Donovan Mitchell, the first shot he took was a three-pointer, like 3 feet beyond the line, swished it. A couple plays later, gets a 4-point play. I mean, he came out of the gate. I don't know if holding him out game one was kind of a mental thing to really kind of put that chip on his shoulder, but it worked. He looks really good in game two, and I don't think there's going to be any more restrictions or game time decisions barring him re-aggravating that injury. So maybe it was a strategic plan by Utah, because I think even with 1-1 and giving up home court, that they can still beat the Jazz in 5 or 6, or the Grizzlies in 5 or 6.
You know what I don't get, Coach? I don't understand why Donovan Mitchell doesn't trust the Utah organization's like medical team. Like, it's not like they were like pushing him out there when he wasn't ready. They're holding him back. They want him to be healthy over the long run. You know, I think that would garner trust instead of take it.
He had just practiced the 3 previous days. There was no inclination that he was going to miss game one. He was ready, set to go. The entire team was expecting him to play. And I don't know if this was maybe a call up from the top, like seeing if they could walk over the Grizzlies, you know, them being the 8 seed, and see if they could win
was a call
him.
from the top.
Yeah, buy some time. But at the end of the day,
reported?
Yeah,
no.
they said the Jazz GM is I forgot his name, is historically someone that is very like safe with injuries, especially with star players. Okay. So they said like he just didn't look as comfortable as he wanted him to in the pregame, which is why I said he's going to be out for game one.
But it was officially on the medical staff that held him out. So there is just it was kind of weird, but I think it lit a fire not only in Donovan but the entire team to come out and just kind of prevail in that game too. And I'm not worried about them in this series. I think that it could go 6, possibly 7, but I think they'll be comfortable into that second round. And Donovan just looks spry. He looked fresh. He looked really good considering you missed 40 days. Even
without Donovan, the Jazz look like they're clearly the better team. Like it takes a 40 ball from Ja to even get them close to winning, you know? So I think Utah's got no problem in this matchup.
Yeah. And Memphis does match up pretty well. Now, a tough blow. I was watching this one live. I thought it might have been an Achilles thing because it was like one of those non-contact things, and his face just screamed, I'm done. And that is Donte DiVincenzo. He's now out for the playoffs. Does this affect the Bucks' chances, Doc?
I'm going to say no. I mean, they still look really good against the Heat, and I think it's because Middleton has taken on more of a role, especially, game one, you see him take the final shot to win. I think the pressure isn't on them this year, and sometimes that's when teams will do best, is when they don't have that pressure to win. Kind of like we saw Virginia basketball 2 years ago, coming off losing as a number 1 seed to the number overall 16 seed. Brad repping the UMBC right there. Everybody thought, okay, this isn't a tournament team, and they go as a number 1 seed and they win it all. And I think that's similar to the Bucks. The pressure right now is on the Nets and the 76ers, so they're kind of playing with house money.
Brad.
Yeah, I agree. I think White Donte being out affects them on the defensive end more so than it does on the offensive end. And I don't even know that I would have said that before Bryn Forbes started playing like Steph Curry. I don't know where that came from, but this dude cannot miss from 3 right now. And I think Bryn Forbes is going to get a majority of those Donte DiVincenzo minutes. And then I think Pat Connaughton will get the remaining ones. So I really think the Bucks are a very well-defined team, and they've got, all their role players can step up to fulfill their starters' roles. So, as long as Giannis is good, as long as Holiday's good, as long as Middleton's good, I don't think they're going to have any problems.
Kevin, some good points there, Brad.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. Defensively, it really hurts if they play the Nets because they need that wing defender. They need those guys against Harden, Kyrie, and Durant, and the versatile kind of defensive team. I think that's where it's going to hurt a little bit, and I just don't think – I don't think they have the firepower to stay with that team anyway. But defensively, they needed that help, and I think that's where it's going to hurt a little bit. They look good though. You're relying on Middleton, and he's doing okay. But I just don't know if you're going to be able to rely on him for the series against the Nets.
And
you are a hater.
I'm not a hater. I'm a realist, Doc. What do you see in Middleton that says that he can lead you to like a victory?
I wasn't just talking about Middleton. I was talking about with Donovan Mitchell too. You're just a hater. You're a boomer.
Yeah, you know what? I am older than you, but with age comes, I'm wise. I've watched more basketball than you, so I know what's coming down the way.
Oh wow!
You've been watching Kings basketball. That's not really. Yeah, you're watching Kings basketball. That's not really basketball itself.
The joke's on you. I don't watch Kings basketball, so I don't know what you're talking about. I just see the box score, see the L, and I just move on.
That's why you probably think De'Aaron Fox is better than John Morant.
He is.
Yes.
So I think you guys made some very good points. Why Donte's defense stands out. He's solid. He's a good playmaker, and he can shoot it. He's really developed into a player and actually fits with Holiday and this team, maybe even better than what Bogdanovich would have done. Brent Forbes came in there and was on fire. The only thing is the consistency there. He's smaller. I think that's where he's going to get kind of abused and focused on in the next series. No matter who it is, even Kyrie could punk him in the post. Connaughton will play those minutes. He's just not as solid as a defender. He's a little bit slower moving laterally. And then you'll see Jeff Teague creep in and gets a little bit of more minutes and maybe even play with Holiday, since Holiday's so elite defensively. So, but Jeff Teague's been really bad this entire season. So we'll see what happens.
He got garbage time minutes the other night, and I was shocked. I was like, "Oh my god!" I forgot Jeff Teague was even on the league right now.
They got to do something. They got to find minutes to package in. But they do have really good surrounding parts. But it's going to be very, very tough in the next round.
What's going on with the Heat, man?
It's a debacle. Jimmy Butler it's been a no-show, and it's very surprising based on what happened last season in the playoffs and how he was just out of this world. But he's been bad. The chemistry is just off as a team. Tyler's not playing as good as he was last year. Neither is Dragic. They're just not playing well together right now. I think going to the finals and then kind of overcoming expectations is now haunting them. Plus, the Bucks are ready. The Bucks, they wanted this match. Miami wanted this matchup again, and the Bucks have been thinking about this all freaking year. And Giannis is coming. He's evolving.
For me, it's like this is the first time I've ever seen the Heat, and they didn't even look prepared. Like it's like they're going in. They don't even run plays offensively anymore. Like
they could be done today. They're down 3-0, and they could be done today. This is being recorded on Saturday, the 29th, so we might be behind when this pod comes out.
Like I was just kind of shocked at the fact that they had no answers. Like for what was ahead of them. It's not like they haven't played the Bucks before. It's not like they haven't beat the Bucks before. And I know Drew Holiday is a big upgrade from Eric Bledsoe, but he's not giving them, an extra 30 points difference. I seeing Jimmy play the way he's been playing, so passive, seeing Bam miss everything. Like I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah. Well, and plus the Bucks have switched their entire defensive scheme by now switching. Now. Yeah. And Giannis as a screener is being utilized a lot more. He's not driving every single time to the hoop. He's playing a little bit more like Anthony Davis in these like
patented drive spin.
Yeah, and where everybody just hones in the middle. They've changed offensive with their scheme, defensive, and then a lot of that does have to do with Holiday. Holiday is just a maestro, and he's been wonderful for this team. All right, we'll move on. Our awards recap. Well-deserved Jordan Clarkson won Sixth Man of the Year, and a couple of us picked him, and it was Joe Ingles that gave him an award, which is a cool little teammate touch. And then Julius Randle, I think he ran away with this Most Improved Player award, and his son, Kaiden, giving him the award. It's so cool. That his son is like, he should win Son of the Year. You know how NBA players' sons just kind of become like celebrities. This is the new one. It used to be
Chris Paul's. It used to be Chris Paul's son for the longest time. He's finally passing the torch.
And Bronny, Zaire, and Carmelo's son, Cayenne, they all get a little shine. I love seeing that. And then who knows? They're all going to be in the NBA in 10 years from now, which is that makes you feel like a boomer. So let's talk a little bit about the fans. They're really back. That's cool. It's electric. Thoughts, Kevin?
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, Trae talked about it in his press conference last night after the game. He said, "Hey, we fed off that energy," and he's like, "It was great seeing it." And I think it's changed games, right? Like we looked at the bubble last year; it was like the best players, best team was going to win. But fans matter, and that kind of atmosphere, and so home court matters, and where they go, and that was brought back. So it's kind of been back to normal. So it's kind of nice to see. I love the energy, though. I love hearing it, and then it's kind of normal. It's back. Trae talks about it. They feed off of it. Better games, and so that's what I like to see.
Brad.
Yeah, I was one of those guys that, if you had asked me last year, I would have said fans don't really matter that much because these guys are professionals, and when they get out there, they're zoned in and focused. But seeing how the shooting has been, dramatically down this year, seeing, guys like Tyler Hero just almost freeze up. I don't know. That guy runs on confidence, and this year he hasn't had it. And I was listening to Gilbert Arenas' podcast this past week, and he was talking about the first time he heard real "fu" boos and what it did to him and what it did to guys on the team. He was like, you go to a place like New York and you hear those boos and those chants, and they're coming directly at you. Guys start shaking, they start freezing up. So they definitely have had an impact, and I think it's clear to see we're finding out who's more of a practice player and who's more of a game time player, and it's probably not the people that I would have guessed, and it's kind of surprising me.
Yeah, and you always got players that step up in the playoffs that you weren't really expecting them to, like Tyler did last year, but again, he's hitting a confidence gap this year. Who haven't we heard from? I'm sorry. Eric, Doc.
No, I think it's good. It's a double-edged sword, though, and I'm sure we'll talk about this. Last year, as Kevin was right, the best teams were the ones that were winning the bubble. There was no home court advantage. You could have virtual fans, but, you see Madison Square Garden game one and, Trae Young hitting that game-winning shot. But prior to that, the Garden was rolling. The Knicks hadn't won a playoff game in 8 years to that point. And talk about, that's kind of where the geographical territories kick in, because you're playing in a bigger market in New York. But are you going to have the loyal fans in Atlanta come out? But as we've seen this past week as well, Trae Young was spit on. There was popcorn thrown on Russell Westbrook. Ja Morant's dad was exposed to some bad language.
Dylan Brooks' family.
And that's the thing we need to remember is, I think because we've been away from these sporting events for a year, you go back and you think that there's no rules applied, that everything's getting better with the pandemic. And you have to remember that these people are humans as well. And I think the league really needs to start enforcing different policies, maybe do like NHL where they have glass separating the fans and the players, because you want to be proactive rather than reactive with these situations.
That's interesting. I haven't heard that before. I was thinking more so take away courtside seating, but I think glass makes a lot more sense because you can still be close. And
because think about when Westbrook's leaving the tunnel, that's when somebody dumps popcorn on him.
Sure.
And that prevents
even with glass,
you'd have to reach up there. It's more of an effort rather than okay, let me just spill it over here. Because if there's a 5-second window that Westbrook is walking from the tunnel, from the entrance to the tunnel, then you have to get up on your seat, pour it over, then it's falling from a higher thing. You just prevent something like a malice from the palace from it even ever happening again.
That's true.
So I think the NBA needs to do something like that. It sucks because for the real OG fans and for the people, the 99% that can behave and, boo and show their opposition in a respectful way, you're taking it away from them. But that 1% really does drive it away.
And for me, I think that they need to take force into action and set an example on some of these people that are doing this. They need to literally have the police officer put them down on the court and put them in cuffs and arrest them, not let them walk out and kind of get cheered along as you throw popcorn on someone or you spit on someone. They need to embarrass these people. They really need to make it a thing where like you just can't do this. You saw that both organizations, the Jazz and Philly, came out with that they were banning the said people that were responsible. But it took a couple days, and I think they need to heighten that up and really set an example with some of these human beings, because it's distasteful, it's despicable. You shouldn't be able to spit on somebody.
That's the thing. Like, I don't know that like people that spit on you or like throw things at you, I don't think those people can be shamed, right? Like, those are people that they have it set in their mind that that's what they have the right to do, and like they're not going to get embarrassed for, by being arrested for doing that. They're probably going to take it as a badge of honor. So I like Eric's idea more of like just protecting the players.
It feels like they're getting like a curtain call as they're getting escorted. They're just like, all right, come on, buddy, no, keep going.
But it's even like streakers. Streakers is the same thing. It's like they're going out there for attention. It doesn't matter if they get slammed on the ground or banned from the stadium. There's still going to be more streakers because those people want attention.
Yeah, but they're not hurting nobody. They're not disrespecting another human being.
Of course not. Of course not.
Be prosecuted. Like, I think that will start turning it away, is if you actually face criminal consequences, or if you get a misdemeanor, not just, you're banned from Wells Fargo Arena for the indefinitely. Like that when you say indefinitely, that means there's a chance they come back. They're banned permanently and they face potential consequences. Due process, whatever you want to, say that they did. But I don't think it's just like, you get kicked out, because there's no really lesson to be learned.
What happened to being civil? What happened to decorum? Like, we've been in our houses for over a year and we don't know how to act and have human behavior. But all of this all in 1 week. I don't know if it's ever happened where in 5 different arenas there's been something this personal. I mean, I'll put a nickel in your back and watch your boy dance. Like the Utah fan, and it makes everyone look bad. Like the Boston fans that are being racist make all Boston fans. It looks like it makes them all look terrible when it's really just some individuals. Kevin, hop in on here.
Well, can I ask a dumb question? Because I don't know. I'm used to asking dumb questions. How do they keep them banned for the entire, like, how does that work? Because I feel like that you could just get tickets on StubHub and those type of things and come back.
I know that they take away this. Okay.
Oh, they face scan them?
Yeah.
Security goes over some of these things, but also it's like a lot of times these have been like season holders and they got really good tickets. They're closer to the front. So like, even if they're going on StubHub and they're in the nosebleed, they snuck in with their disguise. They're not in the same comfort that they used to be.
That's fair. I think as a psychology teacher, as someone who focuses on that, I just think that these people are just, like Brad said, they're just messed up already. And then they get into that environment. These people, they got to get prosecuted, stuff like that, to stay away. Because if they don't, it's not about a basketball game. Dumping popcorn on Russ's head, that has nothing to really do with basketball. That's
while he was walking off the court injured.
Yeah. That's a
in a blowout loss. Like,
that's a social problem. Like, there's something wrong with that person. So like, it's hard to like diagnose those things when you're doing this stuff. Just stop being jackasses. Like, I don't know how it is. Like, we haven't been out of the house. We haven't been able to see this stuff. Like, stop acting like that. But some of these bad people you can't fix, like Boston stuff, like Utah. We've seen this. How many
Philly fans are the worst? Never mind. I don't want to talk about people's fans base, but it's just like so many infractions that occur with this same group, man. And like, this was the same place that were giving two middle fingers up to Russ, like right in front of his face. And like, that same person filed a lawsuit on Russell Westbrook. That was thrown out. Thank goodness.
Listen, Washington's got something for him today. Don't worry about that.
Bertans indeed. Bertans game.
Might get a 30 ball. We might get a 30 ball from my boy.
He's the worst player in the NBA. All right, so we're gonna move. We're gonna do a little coach talk. James Borrego back with the Hornets. The undefeated reports Jason Kidd, quote, would love an opportunity to be a head coach again. And former Sacramento King Bobby Jackson is lined up to coach their G League team, the Stockton Kings. Doc, I'm gonna have you take the lead on Borrego. Brad, we'll have you talk a little bit about Jason Kidd, and Kev on Bobby Jackson. So go ahead, Eric.
Well, there's not many there's not many times I can correct you because it's Borrego,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
I'm a fan of him. He comes from the Popovich coaching tree. We've seen Steve Kerr.
I'm
we've
not
seen
gonna
Mike-
lie. I don't really know too much about James Borrego. I'm not gonna lie here. Go ahead, E.
He comes from the Popovich coaching tree, and we've seen him that do pretty well with Steve Kerr, Mike Budenholzer. Becky Hammond looks like she's eventually going to be the first female basketball head coach. And, I know Charlotte didn't really have the expectations that they expected to this year. I think they finished second to last in the division besides the Magic, but I don't think he's really had a full lineup. I mean, I think a lot of the lack of talent has been botched by management. They got nothing for Kemba Walker. They really haven't had many draft picks pan out. But I'm gonna and look, I'll be the first one to admit that LaMelo Ball had a better rookie year than I thought. But he's very big on spacing, and he has some talented players. Gordon Hayward looked good this year when healthy. PJ Washington, Devontae Max player Graham, Terry Rozier looked improved. So I look forward to seeing what he can do this next season.
And Brad, what's your thoughts on J Kidd trying to get back into the head coaching ranks?
This was a foregone conclusion that this was going to happen. The reason we don't see Ty Lue coaching the Lakers right now is because they were going to hire him, but they made the decision like, we're going to put the associate head coaches together for you. And Ty Lue was like, no, I'm going to hire my guys. I want to do this with the guys that I trust, with the guys that I want to. And that's why he's in with the Clippers now. And the Lakers wanted to put Jason Kidd on that roster. So I think it's clear that, Ty Lue knew, okay, if Jason Kidd is going to be behind me, that means eventually they're going to want to put him ahead of me if I, have a bad year or something like that. So I think everybody knew in the league that Jason Kidd was eventually going to be a head coach again. And to be quite honest, the way he was as a player, a floor general, the relationships he has with the league today, he's probably going to be a great coach. So he definitely deserves all the chances he can get. We look at some of the former players coaching now. They're having a lot of success. So I'd like to see Jason Kidd get another shot.
Yeah, he's such a brilliant basketball mind. He's a savant of the game of basketball. He's an NBA lifer, and I really do hope that he gets another opportunity to be a head coach again because he showed some promise there with the Milwaukee Bucks, and he showed some savvy. But it was his first time around, and he was fresh out of the league. And sometimes you just kind of need a little bit more experience in the second time around.
That's what I was going to say. And on top of that, I hope he doesn't rush into it, and go to a bad situation. I want him to go to a team that either has a high draft pick or has a lot of talent around it.
Wizards.
So. Mm-hmm.
I would love for him on the Wizards.
That would be really interesting.
Russ. Yeah, I'm telling you. And maybe Kevin's Kings. Kevin, what you think about Bobby Jackson getting a little opportunity as a G League coach?
Yeah, I love Bobby because I grew up watching him play when he played the Kings. He's been an assistant player development coach for a while. He's been within that program. I think the coolest thing about Bobby is he stayed in Sacramento. So
and his socks are one of the coolest things ever too.
Yeah, but I do like that he has that homegrown kind of feeling. He stays here, back for the community. He has the Bobby Jackson Foundation, and it's a community-based organization for his mom who passed away from cancer back in 2002. I remember that when I was watching him play when I was growing up. So he's a good guy. He's a hell of a player development person. He's actually has a pretty good reputation in that area. So I like it. Hey, you know what? I mean, if anybody deserves it, it's a guy like Bobby who stayed. Who was a great player. He's kind of worked his way up. He's gotten that talent around him, and I like him. I like him as a person, so I'll root for him. He'd be a better coach than Luke Walton. So hopefully they start promoting up a little bit.
Yeah, he's.
Hey, Kev, what do you hate about Luke Walton besides the losing?
I don't like how when I look at a coach, I don't feel like he's a very good leader. I think he also when he talks and he does his stuff, he tries to be a hard ass in his press conferences and throws his players under the bus too much for me. A lot of times I feel like the ownership of what's going on in that organization, he tries to put it on, well, they're not playing well enough. He likes to take shots at his guys. I don't like that. And I also was a big Mike Malone fan. I was really thought he should have been the guy, and he should be the guy still there. he turned around that place, and then Vlade just whatever. But I think with Luke, I just don't think he's very good. I don't think his X's and O's is that great either. Like when you watch them with play, I mean, it's okay. But I don't feel like he maximizes his talent. Like he's an average guy, but with that team, with the talent we have, with that roster, we need someone a little bit more creative.
Yeah, and I think the writings were on the wall in LA when LeBron did not give a cosign on him. He's not a leader of men of this age group, and maybe it's going to have to take him some time before he does get some of that respect. I do see him going back and forth with his players, and I do see a little bit of throwing under the bus when he does talk about them. So we're going to move on to a little plug talk. Wherever you find your podcast, go follow the Triple Play Fantasy franchise. We got all things basketball, baseball, and football covered. Recently, our Triple Play Fantasy YouTube channel has been gaining traction. If you haven't subscribed, you're missing content that drops every other day. We got everything you need. Honestly, thanks for your support, your listens, your download, your shares, your 5-star ratings and comment drops. Help us and are going to continue to grind to make this podcast the number one option. Like Trae Young telling the Garden, it got real quiet in here. Check us out on Twitter and IG at Trip Play Fantasy. Eric and Brad run our social media and provide daily questions. Our weekly episode drops, as well as spot interviews. Please check out our interview with the head of the NFL, PA DeMaurice Smith. Just want to say thanks for your listens each and every week. And now it's time for a little NBA catch-up for our second week of the playoffs. And that is our impressive performance of the week. Who stepped up, made you hit the rewind button on the remote so that you could watch it again? We're going to start with Doc.
For me, it's got to be Jayson Tatum. You know, I think everybody thought that the series was going to be over in 4 based on how the second half of the first game went in game 2. I mean, the Celtics were down 19-4 yesterday, and Jayson Tatum really put the team on his back. I mean, it's a playoff career high of 50. He had 50 points. He shot, 16 of 30 from the field, 5 of 11 from 3, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. I mean, he's really the go-to player on there to get a bucket. I think the only one really you can look at that maybe can get their own shot is Kemba Walker, who certainly didn't do it yesterday, shot 3 of 14. Evan Fournier shot 6 of 12, but Jayson Tatum once again showing why the Celtics should build around him and not Jaylen Brown. How about that, Brad?
He had the Garden rocking. What was so impressive to me about that performance last night is that on several plays, he put KD in a blender. And like we saw KD blocking his stuff all throughout game 1. And for him to kind of to go mano-a-mano with, maybe the second best human that plays basketball on the earth is very, very impressive on Jayson Tatum. I knew he was going to have one of those games, but this might be it. Brad, someone has stuck out to you this week.
All right, I'm going to read you the stat lines of the last 3 games for this player.
Oh,
34 points, 13 assists, 42 points, 10 assists, 37 points, 5 assists. First game, 5 threes. Second game, 9 threes. Third game, 5 threes. I'm talking about the one and only Dame Lillard, man. He's had to be the guy on Portland. Nurkic is kind of hit or miss with Jokic guarding him. CJ is somebody you can count on, but the Nuggets they're gonna key in on somebody. So they've been switching Aaron Gordon onto Dame Lillard, and that just hasn't really mattered. It hasn't really slowed anybody down. He's been efficient. He's been their Energizer bunny. Like, he's been everything that you expect of Dame. He's one of those guys that you can always count on, like, LeBron or a KD. Like, you just know that they're going to do what they're going to do, and it doesn't matter who's defending them. And that's a rare talent. So he's a guy that I think he's made me rewind the TV a couple of times already, and I'd be surprised if they didn't find a way to pull this out. They just got too much talent against that Denver team.
And they're down 2-1, so that
they are
interesting. Kev.
Yeah, this is a kid that I've actually really starting to like is Trae Young. Like, I didn't really like. I'm not a big. Doc calls me a hater, but Trae used to drive me nuts because I felt like He shot a lot. He was inefficient, but he slowly, if you look at what his games have done in this playoff series against the Knicks, against a very good defensive team, he put up 32, 30, 21. His plus or minus for the series is plus 14, which we usually don't see with Trae because sometimes he can go off a little bit and do some things. He had 14 assists in the last game, 10 assists before. He's getting everybody involved. He's shooting just around 48%, almost 50% from the field for the last 3 games. So he's been there. And in 3-point wise, he hasn't jacked up a lot of threes. He's been pretty efficient there. I think they're trying to take that away from him, and he's letting the game come to him. So I think you're starting to see some maturity, which is weird. Mm-hmm. And you're seeing him grow up in this series. And that's what playoffs will do for these young guys. And I love that. So I watched that game, and I was like, man, he's starting to mature. And you can tell he's getting there, and that's exciting to see for these young players.
Yeah, he is the bona fide leader of that team, and they feed off of him. He has so much swag on every single play. I love the majority of this. I've always loved him. And
to Kevin's point, like he would literally shoot his team out of games. Like somebody told him in like the pre-draft process that he was like a baby Steph Curry, and he tried to shoot like it. Like Kevin said, like somebody got to him, and somebody told him to let the game come to him, start distributing the ball more. The shots will be open later, and he's cut like 9 threes a game down to like 4. Like he's really.
And not to mention, he hit the game winner in the Garden.
Yeah,
in his first playoff game. Like so,
he's cold.
I love that shout out. And for me, my performance of the week is also a player that's still maturing and getting better each and every day, and that is the Luka Doncic, my second favorite player in the league. Game 1, 31. 10 and 11, chill triple-double. Game 2, 39, 7 and 7. Game 3, they just lost, but he had a 44, 9 and 9 last night. The kid just is involved in every single play. And when you're playing against the Clippers with the likes of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, you think, oh, that's a perfect matchup to slow Luka down. But in game number 2, he scored on 8 different matchups. It don't matter who you put on him. He's going to give you problems, including 4 or 7 on Kawhi Leonard. He's cold.
He's also leading the league in tears for the ref. That dude he's become like unwatchable to me. Like he's always crying. Like he's putting up superstar numbers and he's a superstar talent, but he's just not getting the calls like a superstar gets. And I think once he does start getting those calls, which will probably be next year, he's going to be unstoppable.
You're too effing
he's
small.
Watching too many LeBron's videos.
To look Pat Bev in his face and say you're too effing small. I just love the chip on this kid's shoulder.
Can you believe how confident that dude is? He's barely like old enough to drink.
I'm excited as hell right now just thinking about what he's been doing to this league. And the maturity is here in year number 3. Year number 3 for all these players usually is the big difference maker. And for him to, go top 5 in the MVP race last year, you're not really expecting a big jump. But he's better.
The only holes in his game is free throws and 3-point shooting, and both of those will come. They
stopped running plays because Rondo knows every single play. So like Carlisle's kind of just like letting Luka do Luka things, and he has every single defensive schematic assignment mapped out in his brain. He just sees everything slower than everyone else, and it reminds me a little bit of LeBron James, but almost even more impressive at this young age in his career.
Hey, hold on? Can
go
we
ahead.
all agree that Pat Bev's? I'm done with him. Like I've been done with him for a while now, but his act and who he is, it's just frustrating to watch. Like he's not good at basketball.
He doesn't do enough to be a starter.
My guy Russ. He said Pat Bev trick y'all, man. All he does is run around and be pesky. Like that's not a real NBA talent. I mean, don't get me wrong. He deserves to be in the NBA. He should be getting NBA minutes, but he's not this defensive stopper that people make him out to be.
Yeah, and I think that's their weakest position with him, Rondo, and Reggie Jackson. Is like they all can sprinkle really good things, but if you put them all into one player, then you got a good point guard. But it's hard to find rhythm and minutes when you're doing that balancing act, and each guy's getting 15, 20 minutes per game. And I think that's one of the biggest void for the Clippers.
He's also not shooting the 3 as much or as well as he was in years prior, and
that's a big, huge hit.
Yeah, like he was always like a 3 and D guy, and now he's just D, and the D isn't that great.
He was also averaging like 5 or 6 rebounds for a guard.
Yeah,
and which is really good, but it kind of seems like he's taken a step back on that.
Yeah, and before we move on, Ja Morant should get a shout out. I know they lost, but he had 45, and he's just playing at a very, very elite level. And you see a huge growth and maturity in just a second-year player, and the bona fide leader of his team as well. So, we're moving on to a Who Ya Got segment, and this is a most valuable player. We haven't touched on this in a while. I mean, it might be a foregone conclusion, but let's talk about it a little bit. Who you got? Our candidates are your Steph Curry, former 2-time MVP, Joel Embiid, and Nikola Jokic. And Doc, we'll start with you.
So I think you have to go to Jokic because of the team's success. Like, I use it as an elimination. Embiid missed probably 15 games, and in a 72-game season, I think you have to factor that in. Even though the 76ers were number 1 in the East, they still have Ben Simmons, they still have Tobias Harris. Seth Curry played well this year. Doc Rivers is a great coach. Steph Curry was really good, and he came on towards the end of the season, and you could give him the award. The Warriors
Probably
didn't
his
even
best season too, which is weird. But he was a former unanimous MVP.
But the thing is, he didn't even make it to the playoffs. So I can't remember the last time an MVP went to a non-playoff team. I think Jokic played almost every game, averaged close to a triple-double. The Nuggets really came on in the second half, finished in the 3rd seed. They had like a 800 or 80 winning percentage with Jamal Murray after Jamal Murray tore his ACL. So I think by process of elimination, you have to give it to Jokic.
Yeah, he played all 72, and they were 13-5 without Jamal Murray. So, like you said, just the consistent win and to finish the 3rd seed in the Western Conference is just unreal. Kev, who you got?
Yeah, I'll be quick. It's the Joker. I mean, when you stole my stats, so I don't really have anything to say. He went 13-5 without Murray. So I feel like if we're looking at MVP valuable, once Murray went down, he was able to keep his team. They made the playoffs. It's Jokic.
Brian?
I agree. It's between Joker and Embiid, and Embiid has had his number one or his sidekick the whole year in Ben Simmons, and Joker lost his. And I just think it's clear that, this is a regular season award, and the formula is always like, excellence plus, top 4 or 5 seed. And I think it's clear that Jokic has had to do more for his team than Embiid has. They're both deserving, but if you got to pick one, it's definitely Joker.
Yeah, Jokic, 26 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, 57% from the field, 39 from 3, 87 from the free throw line.
He's almost a 50-40-90 guy as a center. It's absurd.
It's ridiculous. And he almost, averaged double-digit assists as well doing that. And he's a sneaky, all right defender. Like, he gets so many steals. He gets his hands on things, and we know how slew-footed he is. And that's kind of the only unfortunate thing about Embiid is that he is such an excellent, excellent defender. If he does play all those games, that you probably give the nod over him because he's a more impressive defender. But Jokic is no slouch over there.
This is one of those situations where, like, the analytics guys are not watching the games. Like, the stats will tell you, like, analytically, if you look at his defensive rating, Jokic is not that great of a defender. If you watch the game and you see what he's actually doing out there, you see it's a different story. Like, he matters. You look at what he's doing to Nurkic this postseason. Like, he can make some very prominent scorers become like the second and third options.
To be fair, he wasn't always like that. Like, he was a mismatch last year. He got exposed, and he showed up out of training camp, out of shape. Remember, we were all making the dad bod jokes. This is very recent that he's become a decent defender.
That's true.
Hey, this just I just looked up. He is 15th in the NBA in defensive rating.
Yeah,
which is that's damn good.
It is damn good, but over his career, it's like Eric said, it's much worse, and he's kind of kept that tag. People still say he's a bad defender, but he's really come about this year.
Speaking of defense, this is going to be a good segue, and I don't think it's going to be as clear-cut as this latest decision, and that's who you got for Defensive Player of the Year. Our candidates include Rudy Gobert going for the 3P, Draymond Green, who's no stranger to this award, and Ben Simmons. We're going to start with Kev.
Well, you know,
Ben
First of all,
Simmons.
Before
I gotta stay
before
on
he
brand
goes,
here.
before he goes, let me just say I agree with Kevin.
Okay.
Say,
I don't.
you know, you got Simmons. You know, I'm going Ben Simmons. He's averaging just under 2 steals a game, about a block. You look at his defensive ratings, 104. You just look what he did. His team defense is second. That's a lot of him. And I want a versatile defender. I've said this a million times, and he's a versatile guy. He can guard every damn position. He does it all. It may not always show up in the stats. It may not show up in the blocks. It may not show up in all that. But if you watch the games, like Coach is saying, I don't know how Brad, not Coach. Coach don't watch the games. So if you're watching this and you watch the games, you know Ben Simmons is a dominant player out there. You know what he brings to that team. He deserves it. Rudy's fine, whatever. But Ben deserves this award. He deserves to get recognized for being one of the best defensive players in the NBA.
Doc, hop in there. I'm with you on this one, buddy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think with MVP, we see with voting that people get voter fatigue, that even if someone deserves the MVP year after year, they're going to give it to somebody new because, you know, it's kind of a narrative. You know, what was the best storyline? And Rudy Gobert is having similar stats to what he had last year, averaging the same amount of defensive rebounds, around the same amount of steals, almost a block more. You could give it to him just because of his size and impact he has on the game beyond the stats. But like Kevin said, Ben Simmons has the versatility. You know, he can guard all 5 positions. He's averaging over 2 steals a game, I think, this season. So, and the 76ers are the number 1 seed. Once again, I think you got to factor in record, and he really held it down when Embiid was gone. So maybe Gobert wins it, you know, the lion's share, but I think this year you got to give it to somebody new, and that's Simmons.
All right, so I guess I'm solo. I'm in an island here. It's got to be Rudy Gobert. And to me, it's not close. The defensive rating, Rudy Gobert is 6 points better than Ben Simmons. He has a 100.5 defensive rating. Ben Simmons has a 106.1. He also played in every single game this year. Ben Simmons with 13 less games. He also has Embiid to help back him up. And I remember a little back and forth. Simmons has been taking jabs at Rudy Gobert. He says, Rudy Gobert guarded me in Utah. I had 42, and apparently I'm not a scorer. And he talks S with the best of them. But when Simmons really was on, when Gobert was on Simmons, he was 3 of 7 shooting. He had 3 turnovers and 9 points on again, 3 of 7 shooting. So he had 42, but when Gobert was guarding you turned the ball over 3 times and you missed 4 of your 7 attempts. I think that because of the defensive rating, that's where the voters are going to go. So that's why I kind of think he is going to win this award for the 3rd time in a row. So
Rudy Gobert is 7'1" though, and figure he has like a 7'5" wingspan. You're gonna have a more impact on the game just because of the size you are. I think when you actually watch the game, if somebody is doing well, then it'll be like, all right, Simmons, switch on him. Like Simmons, go guard Kyrie Irving. And you can't have Rudy Gobert do that. If you have Rudy Gobert guard Steph, then he does Twister.
It's not that Rudy Gobert is not deserving of the Defensive Player of the Year award. He very well may win. But if I'm deciding who had the best year defensively, if it's 2 guys with a good reputation of defense and then one of which can guard every single position, I'd lean towards that one. Like Eric said, if somebody's getting hot, you put Simmons on them. If somebody's getting hot against Utah, you better hope it's their center.
And for the record, I love Ben Simmons as a defensive player, and I love his versatility. He goes and guards the best player on the other team, wing, big. It doesn't matter. But I think just statistically wise, he's going to win the award because being 6 points better on your defensive rating is just such a wide margin that the voters aren't going to ignore that.
But yeah, shout out to Draymond Green. We didn't say that.
Oh yeah.
He's
great.
Once again, he showed, how he just impacts the game so much more than the box score, man. Yeah, their team just wasn't as good as these other 2 guys. So I think it's clear that he's not really in the running. But I think him even being in the finalists is kind of a nod to him. Like, hey, man, we see you. We see what you're doing.
And he had a really great year.
And Rudy Gobert almost destroyed the league last year because of COVID. So I'm not going to, touch and shit and gave everybody COVID.
Yeah.
So I'm holding that against him too.
Yeah, and we can't forget what happened in the playoffs. Him getting kind of played off the court in that in that Denver matchup when they were up 3-1. So let's check in. Playoff check-ins. We're recording Saturday again. So this is the current status, starting with possible brooms out. Sweep alert. We're going to start with our local team, and this is the Philadelphia 76ers against the Wiz. Philly is up 2-0. Doc.
Hey, Coach, I actually got to get going. I figured that before we talk playoffs, because I have to pack up and then head out to my haircut in like an hour or so.
All right, cool. Brad.
All right. Good talking with y'all.
Kevin,
I'm going to hit you up later because I'll probably hop in the meeting with you and David.
Okay.
All right. Peace.
Cool.
So to me, we've got the Wizards who have they've kept up with Philly, both games. The first game they got Embiid in foul trouble. The second game, the second half kind of got away from them. And when you get 0 points from your sharpshooter and Bertans, that's a recipe for a disaster. When Russ is he had a bagel. When Russ is out, that hurts you as well, and I'm sure he's going to be ready for this game. I don't know which game they're going to win, but they're going to win one of these games at home. They're not going to get swept. Russ and Brad are too good for that. They're too competitive for that. That's just not going to happen. I'm feeling a little less confident they can squeak out a win, though. I'll be honest about that.
Yeah, and Russ has not been good, even in the play-in game. Like, he's not playing in the last 3 weeks. Yeah, it's tough, and you just don't like to see that type of stretch from him, especially in the playoffs, and especially when he was playing probably some of his best ball of his entire life.
He got him there
before the end of the season. Yeah, he did. And Brad not being 100% definitely takes a big blow because the defense can really hone in on Russ right now. But he's been inefficient, and his kind of like his body language has kind of been off for the team, and he's like, I see him look at Ish Smith sometimes on a drive, like, what is this Bama doing? Like, that's just not the greatest. But his supporting cast is boo-boo. So, Kev, what do you think about the Wizards? They getting swept?
Yeah, probably. I like the Wiz. I give him credit getting there. But Philly's good, guys. Like,
they're damn good.
They are a legitimate NBA final team. So, like, losing to them. I mean, there's nothing to shame of that. And they've been playing, they're doing those things. But Philly is freaking good, and I love watching Philly play.
Yeah, I will say that the Wizards have, like, a very, very bad defense this year. Like, their game is to outscore you. It's not to to have any stops.
Yeah.
So I don't know that Philly's going to look this great, whoever their next opponent is.
Yeah, but the top of the Eastern Conference has been completely dominant, and the top 3 seeded teams are very, very dangerous and could be there in the finals at the end of the day, and can give whoever comes out of the West a really tough run for the money. And that leads us to our next matchup, which might be a sweep, and it's even closer. This is 3-0. By the time the pod comes out, they might be already in South Beach, and that is the Bucks versus the Heat. Kev.
Yeah, we talked about him earlier, but what I will say was I was going to mention when I watched them play the other day, there was like 2 series that really stood out to me. One is that they got a shot clock violation because they just weren't in sync on offense, the Heat. Like, it just looked weird. And then they came down and they were kind of yelling at each other and stuff. Then they came down and gave up a wide open layup. And then they called a timeout. Spo was pissed, but there's just something wrong. And then after Bam and Jimmy Butler, I think they went like 12 for 61 or 13 for 61 the first 2 games. There was something, it was crazy inefficient. There's just doesn't seem to have that same thing. I know they dealt with COVID at the middle of the year. Maybe like the chemistry is off. There's just something not there. They need a guy. They really need like Bradley Beal. But they need someone there to kind of step up in next season in the offseason.
Who knows?
They need another guy.
Maybe Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, they're going to need someone like that. But, they just look off. And the Bucks are playing well. So you got to give them credit.
Brett.
Yeah, man, I think they were hoping Tyler Hero would blossom into Bradley Beal. And, he's what, 20, 21 now? Like, he still very well could turn into that. But he's having his sophomore slump this year, and it looks bad. It doesn't look like he's losing confidence, but the coaching staff is losing confidence because they're not giving him the same minutes. And the only way you're going to get better is if you play. So, I don't know exactly what they need because I'm so shocked at how different they are from last year. Like Jimmy's not even the same player this year. So I can't, if he's not going to be the Jimmy that literally carried this team into the finals last year, it's fair to say that you don't necessarily even have a core right now. Like he's going to be your 2 or 3 for whatever you set up because Bam's in the same situation, right? Like he doesn't look as good as he looked last year or even during the regular season this year. So I truly don't know what to make of the Heat. I feel like they could win today just because they're a big mystery, but if they lost, that would surprise absolutely no one.
Yeah, and I mean they have a lot of turnaround. They got Kelly Oubre. I mean, Kelly Olynyk was traded, and you had Jay Crowder last year, who was on flamethrower mode the whole playoff series.
That is a great point. They could really use Kelly Olynyk right now.
Yeah,
what a man. Yeah, what a player. And back to the Tyler Hero thing. It's not like he's playing terrible, like he's not good. It's just he was not playing on that same level he was last year. And you would want an increase instead of kind of being stagnant. And in the bubble, in the playoffs, in that atmosphere, he thrived because all he does is love basketball. But I think some of the limelight, you go to the finals, maybe your girlfriend might be like the hottest girlfriend in the league. Maybe that affects you a little bit.
It's like you said, like I'm not giving up on the dude. Like he's got so much talent that you don't give up on somebody that scored 37 in a huge playoff game for you as a rookie. Like you let him take his lumps and grow. But I just don't know why they're not giving him the minutes. They're not giving him the minutes. They're not giving none the minutes. Dragic is playing very well, but he's not even starting. Like he'll come off the bench and give you starters minutes. Like I'm those spotations. I don't really know what's going on there. Like he's gotta work on having an identity. Like the team doesn't have an identity right now, and that's something that they thrived off of last year, and they don't have that now. And to your point, Coach, like that Kelly Olynyk trade is looking real funny in the light because when I think of like how different a team they are now, it's pretty much they were doing all the things that Kelly Olynyk does.
Well, they went in on Victor Oladipo, and he's not there to help him out. They went in on him.
That's true, but even like during the end of the season this year, they weren't this bad, you know. And when things slow down in the playoffs, when you're up against a defensive squad like Milwaukee, a team that's as long as Milwaukee, you could use a stretch forward like Kelly Olynyk, who does all the dirty work, hits the threes, makes the passes, gets the boards. He's just a really underrated player.
And the Bucks are just ready. They're ready this year. They wanted this the whole time, and it's kind of the rematch where, like, a fighter loses, but then next time Anthony Joshua gets knocked up, but the next time he just whips his opponent's ass because of that motivation. All right, so we're gonna move on. This had a potential sweep occurring as the Nets were just rolling at home, and they're playing Boston, and Jayson Tatum just dropped 50. Where do you see this series heading? I don't think we'll spend too much time on this, Brad.
Nets win, but that game that they lost against Boston is really showing me exactly why I don't think this Nets team can win the East, let alone the championship. When they have any hint of adversity and they need to get those stops, they're just not going to be able to do it. They don't have that cohesiveness. They don't have that scheme yet, and they're just straight up a bad defensive team outside of KD and Bruce Brown. So I think Boston is obviously not going to win. This was a great game from Tatum, but he's got to have that all the way for the rest of the series for that to happen, and I don't think it will.
Kev?
Yeah, I think realistically maybe go 6. Maybe Boston, Tatum goes off one more time. I think the Nets are going to win. But, to Brad's point, I think I'm slowly coming around on his thing with the Nets. I always thought they're the most talented. They have those 3 guys. But I'm so excited for that second round.
Me too.
It's going to be a bloodbath. And they're going to go at it. And that's why I kept saying that first seed was the most important, because Philly's just going to be chilling. They're going to play the Hawks or the Knicks, and they'll probably win in 5 or 6. And then they're going to get a tired-ass Nets or a tired Bucks team who just went through a battle. I can see that next round being 7. But that defensive stuff is worrisome. And their cohesiveness, it's interesting. And Boston plays pretty hard. So I can see it getting the 6.
And I got Nets in 5. I think they win the next 2. They win the next one in Boston. They go home and they take care of business and they rest up as much as they can. But that series is going to jump off right away because I see both of them kind of putting it into both of their series pretty quickly. And we'll all be locked in. That might be the most intriguing second round matchup that we'll have.
No doubt.
I mean, nothing's set in stone, but it's happening. All right. Speaking about nothing set in stone, this is a Utah Jazz and the Memphis Grizzlies. They're tied up, locked up 1-1 in a series where, typically a team with the best record in NBA doesn't really have too many issues here in the first round. But Utah getting Donovan Mitchell back, and the Grizzlies just playing at a really high level. It is interesting. I think we kind of mentioned our takes here, so we'll be kind of brief. Brad?
Yeah, it's like the same thing with the Celtics, right? Like Ja and Tatum need to give you 50 for them to even have a chance, and that's not something I'm willing to bet on. So I think Utah takes this.
Yeah, and Dylan Brooks had a beautiful 31-point performance, and I don't think you're going to consistently get that. And he made me eat my words as I kind of trashed him last week. Kev?
Yeah, these are still NBA dudes. I think Utah should win. I'm not. I as much as I don't see I love watching Ja develop. Like I think Ja's kind of like with Trae. Like they're developing now in the playoffs, so that's an interesting kind of environment. But that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and Bogdanovich being there this time and healthy, and then you got David, you got Favors back. You have a real 8 deep lineup, and everyone knows their roles, and I think they take care of business.
Favors has been in the league. Favors has been in the league a long ass time, right?
Forever, and he's still like 26 or 27 or something.
I feel like I get him on 2K all the time, and I'm like, how is Favors still on this? How am I trading for him? Trade Finder.
Yeah, and he's only getting like 18 minutes a game. Like I really hate. I wish he would get like the starters minutes again. I used to love Derek Favors, man.
He started last year, but he is probably one of the best backup bigs in Utah. That was a huge gap last year. They didn't really they didn't have that, and they had to play Niang a lot at big.
Imagine if Miami had Favors like in their same situation right now. Like they'd be so much better.
Yeah. Now this is one of the most intriguing matchups coming up next, and that is the Denver Nuggets and the Portland Trailblazers is kind of going back and forth. Denver is now up 2-1 after losing the first matchup. Brad, who you got in this series? I think you mentioned it earlier.
I did. It's really a gut thing and like a feel thing. Like I have no data to back it up, and if you even would look, if you look at the data, like net rating wise, net rating wise, Denver's the better team, and that's even without Jamal Murray. But I just look at the team, and when teams are this close, when they match up this well, I tend to go towards the side that has more talent at the top, and I think that's clearly Portland. You look at CJ, you look at Dame, you look at Nurkic. They're getting stuff from Austin Rivers. They're getting stuff from Anthony Simons. They're getting stuff from Covington.
Austin Rivers plays for Denver, and he was the reason why they won.
My bad. Anthony Simons. They're getting stuff from Anthony Simons.
You didn't mention Melo though. Carmelo had over
they're getting
20.
stuff from Covington. They're getting stuff from Melo. They're a deeper team, and they're a better team at the top. And I have a feeling that that's going to outlast Denver. But like you said, like they're down 2-1, so I wouldn't be shocked if Denver pulled it out.
This series has 7 games written all over it. It sounds like Brad has Portland in 7. Kev?
Yeah.
It's going to be 6 or 7. It probably will go to 7. CJ McCollum needs to step up his game a little bit. Like, he's been kind of inefficient. I mean, he had a plus-minus of minus 23 in that second game when they lost by 19. Even last night, he was 8 for 20 in the third game against them. Like, CJ's got to step up, and he has not looked very good this season. Trust me, I had him on my fantasy team, and he was injured, and it just – he's inconsistent, and Lillard's really stepping that up. But I really like what Denver's done, and I think that they are talented, and I think these coaches are pretty evenly matched too. Like I like both these guys, and they make adjustments very well. You'll see it, and that's where the key is going to be, where the adjustments come.
To your point, Kevin, like this is the only series where I see both teams actually running plays. Like it's kind of wild. Like you can see where the coaching actually is. Like even in Miami, like Spo is known for being, a mastermind and an adjuster, but all they do is like ISO ball and pick and roll. Like it's been tough sledding in these playoffs. Like we're watching a lot of blowouts because teams are just running circles around each other, but not in this Portland Denver series. Like we're seeing two great talents go at each other and also two great coaches, and it's been great.
You got two top 5, top 10 players in our league, and they're playing at very elite level, and it just kind of depends on whose night is it. These games have been close, and I got Portland in 7 just because I feel like they'll figure it out. But I could see Denver winning in 6. But even if they won in 6, I think that every game is going to come down to the fourth quarter, last 5 minutes. And
I agree.
A really good series.
If you love basketball, this is the series you watch. If you love like basketball, not the stars, not all that stuff. But if you just love the game,
that's right.
This is the series to watch.
Yeah.
You know what it looks like? It looks like women's ball. That's what the series looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. The good sets. They work well together. These teams have played for a very long time together, actually. So you can see that they have consistency. They work well. They talk very well. They have this star-studded guys. This is actually probably the most underrated series of the
I wish it was in the finals and not the first round. Yeah. I feel like both of these teams could do something, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
All right, our next matchup, Hawks and Knicks. Hawks are up 2-1 in this series. Kevin.
Yeah, this has been fun. When you're watching I talked about Trae earlier, and the Knicks are there. I think this is going to go 6 or 7. I could really see it going to that. I just think that these guys are pretty evenly matched. I still think that the Knicks have the upper hand because Randall hasn't played very well. So Julius Randle has not played great. He has not looked good. Even RJ Barrett, he's kind of been MIA too. So I think they figure that out. So I'm still leaning the Knicks, but in 7 probably.
Brad.
I agree with everything Kevin said. On the thing for me is what do you feel like you want to bet on? And I feel like for the Hawks to have won these games, they've had to have bad games from Randall, and I don't want to bet on that continuing just the way he's played this year. And then another thing we haven't seen is the Knicks shut down defense. That's a top 5 defense we watched all year, and they show spurts of it in this series, maybe even for a whole quarter. But when the fourth quarter rolls around, they're not getting those stops. They're not shutting Trae Young down. They're not stopping Bogdanovich from hitting the 3. Their spacing's bad. Their rotations are bad. We're not seeing the Knicks that we're used to seeing in the fourth quarter, and I think that's going to get fixed. So I'm going to take the Knicks long term.
I'm gonna take the Hawks here. I know last week I took the Knicks in 7, and wouldn't surprise me. And the reason why I'm taking the Hawks is because Trae Young is the best player on the court, and Julius Randle is struggling a little bit. Plus, I just like the fit of this whole team. Gallo playing well. Hunter looks like he's healthy again. He had a couple drives to the basket that was very impressive. Herter, you just know what you're gonna get from him. He's just very consistent. He can drive. He can shoot. He's a pretty good defender. Bogdanovich is clicking. Capella does Capella things. It's honestly, John Collins is getting lost a little bit in this series, but it's just showing who the true alpha is on that team. And so I got Trae Young, but I could see it going either way. So I'll go with the Hawks in 6. And we'll move on to the most intriguing matchup. And the Clippers got back in the swing of things with a win in Dallas to make this series 2-1. If they lose that game, it is all over. And with player options coming in the summer, Luka, Debo, Doncic is playing his role as playing the best playoff basketball of anybody thus far. What do you think happens in this series? Because it's cranking up a little bit, and that was a huge win for the Clippers last night. Kevin.
I was going to be interested to see what you guys thought here. I feel like they're playing Rondo way too many minutes. 26 minutes that he got last night. I mean, he's been playing okay. I know he had a really good plus minus. But it just is. They're weird. That team is weird. They don't have they got the 2 top guys. And if Paul George does what Paul George did last night, then they're going to be fine. But I think that's the kicker. It really relies on Paul. I still don't know how the Mavericks keep winning these games because they don't really have very much talent on that roster. They got Luka, and then it's kind of Hardaway's okay.
He's been playing amazing. Hardaway's been really, really, really good.
Porzingis
But
needs
he's
to
always
step his shit up.
Hardaway's always been like that though. Like the reason he's Hardaway is because like he'll have a game where it's like, oh wow, he just dropped 35 and he was money, and then the next game he'll have like 12. Like he's just not consistent, and you need consistency in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Everything Kevin said is the reason why I'm picking LA. Like at the end of the day, Dallas is not a good team.
No.
Luka is incredible, and he's really carried them. But in the playoffs, you need more than Luka, and eventually they will have more than Luka. And I think when they got Porzingis, they thought he was going to be Luka's Batman, but Porzingis he's kind of been a non-factor. He hits his threes and he spaces the floor really well, but he's not really out there on defense. And at the end of the day, LA is way better. They have all the talent. They're rested. They play better defense, and they've got 2 or 3 players that can outscore Luka. So I just can't. If Dallas wins this, I'll be shocked, and that's a lot to say considering they're up 2-1.
And I'm rolling with Luka and the Mavs on this one. The chemistry does look more impressive. Ibaka, after spending a lot of time injured, he is looking very rough. When he was,
I think he's out for the playoffs now.
Really,
I think so. I read something about
that's
that.
heard. And the point guard carousel that they keep throwing out. I think it's going to take a Paul George step up performance, and I'm just not going to the bank on that. And I think Jalen Brunson is giving you wonderful minutes off the bench. Tim Hardaway is playing lights out. He's flamethrower. He's making everything. Porzingis is out there. He's healthy, and he's not really producing too much as far as statistically is concerned. But he still is 7'3", and he is long, and he's better than Zubats is. So Finney Smith is one of your really good 3-and-D performers. He can actually hit the 3 now, which was a huge step up from last year. Like you just didn't even guard him at all. And I just think Luka is going to find a way, and it's really going to create some type of conversations on how damn good he actually is.
Coach, what do you think Dallas needs to become a championship contender?
I think I don't know why. I just thought if they have Giannis, because that was all.
Sure.
If they have Giannis, they win the next 6 championships. But
that's like a real answer. Do you think like they need another star? Do you think they just need shooter? Like what do they need?
I think they need a star that they thought Porzingis could be. So somebody that's just consistently going to be able to be on the court. I mean, Brad Beal, of course, just comes to my mind as he could be a player that puts him over the edge. And with Luka being able to guard, 1 through 4. And just being such an elite playmaker, you have a lot of options that you can really work from. And who knows, maybe Kawhi is like, I want to play with this guy. And that would be a perfect fit because the Matador is a true bona fide leader where Kawhi is kind of just chill and reserved. And that would be a perfect complement to each other. But I haven't really given it too much thought because those are kind of things that I think about in the offseason. But those are just my random thoughts that just came right now.
What do you guys think about adding DeMar DeRozan to that team?
That's interesting.
That gets a realistic kind of free agent target.
The only thing is he's better with the ball in his hands. He still can't shoot the 3. I don't know if that's the greatest fit for Luka. I think you want somebody more polished as a 3-point shooter.
I was gonna say like I don't think he puts anybody over the top like in the league, but he's somebody you can always count on. He's very consistent.
I like DeRozan to Miami. I just thought about that right now.
I think Miami. I don't know what Miami needs, man. They've really confused me.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah,
and I feel that same way about Dallas. Like, I just don't. That's why I asked you that question. Like, I know Luka is a franchise player, and he's their unquestioned number 1 and will be with whoever comes in.
Yeah,
but they're not good, and I think they know they're not good. And that's why everybody's so like jacked up in Dallas. So they're like, okay, wow, we can really beat LA because they didn't think they actually could because they're not good. But I don't know what they need. I don't know if they need a big. I don't know if they need more shooting. I don't know if they need another star. I don't know if they need another scorer, another defender. Like I just don't know what their deal is.
I would say John Collins, but to me, he's just not the. He's just not the. I don't think he's worth the money. Yeah. Except I feel like I just have
He's
more.
better. He's a little better.
He can. I just trust that he'll be on the court.
Sure.
And be healthy. But no, that poses an interesting question. We'll see how some of these players develop. And hey, he's only in his third season. He's like 22 and a half. Like we got a long journey when it comes to Luka Doncic, and I think he'll be in that Mavs uniform probably his entire career. So our question of the week, we're just gonna have to save it for next time. We ran over a little bit, but our greatest NBA playoff run will be coming in a future episode, and we'll be prepped up for that. And gentlemen, you guys have anything to say on our way out?
Suns Lakers, LeBron, stop being LeBron.
Oh, stop! Don't do this. Don't open that door right now.
Just stop being LeBron. Just get out.
Golly, he's completely dominating that series. By the way.
My message is to make sure to subscribe to the Triple Play Fantasy YouTube feed.
Absolutely. And again, we love your listens each and every week. We appreciate you. And we will see you next